I remember a young cop coming in, just like they kicked down the door, and he was so pumped up and fired up with his gun drawn, and he's like, "Drop the baby!" And I was like, "What? What the?" Like, thankfully, I didn't.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bunny Hugs Mental Health, the podcast for anyone that has emotions or brains, because we learn about them and how to deal with them and get inspired by other people's stories. I'm your host, Todd Rennebaum. A big congratulations to Jeneline Anthony. She has won $50 from Co-op, or a $50 Co-op gift card, and she's going to be spending it on groceries or gas or hardware or whatever she wants from any Co-op she wants. So congratulations, Jeneline. And remember to listen to the full episode, answer the question at the end, and this week you can win $25 gift card. Answer the question at the end of the episode. Email your response to bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com, and you could win yourself $25 gift card from Co-op this week. This week's guest is Rob Kraushaar, and he is a vigilante therapist. Well, that's what I call him. But he is a street counselor. He goes out on the street and talks to homeless people and just anyone in need, really. And he's passionate about it. He's a social worker. And the reason he's so passionate about it is because he, too, was a hardcore addict. And so we're going to hear a little bit about his story. We're going to learn about life on the street. We're going to learn about addiction and how to overcome it and how he did it. So there's a lot of lessons in this one. Well, there's a lot of lessons in every episode, really. And very quickly next week, I'm speaking with a lovely lady named Stephanie. She's a therapist as well, but she does horsey therapy. She has clients come in and work with horses while also working on trauma and all types of stuff. So that's a very interesting one because horses scare me. So be sure to listen to that episode. Be sure to listen to all the episodes because you never know what you're going to hear that you didn't know you needed to hear. All my guests talk about mental health. All my guests talk about ways they've overcome mental health issues and addictions. So you never know what you're going to hear. This is a free mental health service, so please also let other people know. You know lots of people are suffering right now, and you know someone might hear something that they need to hear from one of my guests. So please tell other people. And hey, if you don't want to enter the contest, you just want to send me an email, go ahead. bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com. Now I have to apologize again, the audio isn't the best. I had trouble with a new to me computer and I got rid of it real quick because it was a piece of garbage. So I have a brand new spanking computer now, and I think this is the last episode where the audio was a little funky, so from here on out, I believe the audio is going to be amazing. And soon, these interviews will also be on video on YouTube. So I'll make that announcement once videos start going up there. But anyway, without further ado, I give you the vigilante therapist himself, Rob Kraushaar.
No, I'm really tired. We had that whole city hall encampment fiasco thing, and I was there trying to help people get housing or support, or at least to shelters and clear out tents, and I was there for 2 days straight, pretty much.
I was wondering if you'd be there.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure I was. I've been going there every day, or almost every day. I try not to do it on weekends too much if I'm in the city because I live out of town, but the last month I've been really trying to keep weekends for like the family and myself because it was getting pretty hectic. But
yeah, you need some boundaries, kind of.
So yeah, I was there for sure to find out where people were going and help them get out. But yeah, it was intense, really sad, and lots of anger and lots of police. But yeah, it was intense. Yeah.
Intense. Sorry,
yeah.
That was a bad joke.
No, again, yeah, nice. That was pretty good actually.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's been something I've been keeping my eye on, and I'll probably put this in the podcast. So anybody that doesn't know, in the city of Regina, there is homeless camp set outside the city hall. And there was a fire the other night, and so the fire chief declared it. Well, I don't know what he declared it, but basically it made it. He said it's unsafe, so then they brought police in and they moved this whole encampment and kicked everybody out and fenced the area, and Some people went to a motel in a small town. Other people, I don't know. I have no idea where everybody, like, they're
It
just
was
spread out all over the place now, I guess.
it was scattered. There was since we lived by Belgoni, there's a few people that were sent out there. So we got to stop and check, and there was also another lady that works at a CBO in Regina, kind of in North Central, that lives out in Belgoni, and she was checking on people and bringing them food and stuff. So they had and some of the organizers from the camp were out there too, checking on them, and volunteers. So they had like but it was just confusion. Like I mean, like the ministry's closed on the weekend, so what do you do? Like you have no one you can call, and then you just don't know. You don't even have a worker's name. You're just in a hotel with like no vehicle. So it's pretty like traumatizing, but like I get they have to put people somewhere, but it was just, yeah, it was just intense. Yeah. But like a lot of people got sent to Regina, and then, or some people got sent around to Regina, but there's not too many hotels that were taking them. I don't know if they were full or what the reasoning is. I guess it's all speculation, but so the motel owners in Balgoni were very friendly though, and understanding, and pretty good. So
Yeah, good. Well,
yeah.
yeah. And then there's how many hundreds of empty houses, like low income houses, and or
Yeah, so I think it's Regina housing, but
Regina housing, right?
there's other ones too. Like there's private ones, and um,
Provincial ones, and
yeah, I'm not sure. Well, like the Regina housing is provincial. It's the same thing. It's just under SaskHouse. Don't quote me on that, but too late. I guess we're on camera, so I might be. As far as I know, that's correct. But yeah, I think there was like 179, but I don't know if that was all Regina housing or if some of them are landlords. I know North Central has like a lot, like outside my office on Fifth Avenue and Ray Street, I believe it is. I don't even know what street it is. Um, but it's there's not very many houses that people are living in that aren't boarded up on that street. It's pretty scarce down there, but there's so many good people in that area. Like I love it. That's where my heart is. It's like North Central. It's my favorite place.
I dated a girl from there at one time.
Yeah.
um, let's talk about your story. How you were going down that road, and what led you down that road, I guess.
My timelines are sometimes I've told my story so many times. I always say that I'm gonna write it down, and I should really write a book, but honestly, I don't have time for that right now. But my timelines are kind of skewed. I've gone through like some therapy. I did EMDR. Is that what it is? No, that's dance music.
No, it's EMDR with the eye
Yeah,
movement
okay,
stuff.
then yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that one, and that helped a lot actually. But like my timeline's blurred for quite a few years. But it all started when I was raised in a strict Catholic home, like Roman Catholic, when I was an altar boy. I had dreams of being a priest. I used to read my freaking children's Bible every night before bed. Like I don't know how many times I read that thing front to back. But I also knew that if I was taking too long in the bathroom, that somebody would assume I was jerking off in the bathroom, like banging on the door. So it's like it was lots of fear, the whole like fire and brimstone for sure. But I had a loving home. My parents were very loving. My dad was an alcoholic. He quit drinking when I was about 8. I believe it was when I was about 8. But he was I don't want to say like a dry drunk, but he just poured himself into work instead of meetings, and then he poured himself into religion. So they left the Catholic Church and became what they call Christians now. So, and they're Baptists, so a little stricter than some of the other ones. But so when I was 8, like I don't really remember. I know my dad took me to stuff and like was around, but I don't really remember like too many fond memories of baseball and speed skating, because I was in that, and I was in lots of sports, very athletic, but just really small, like tiny, all the time. I remember around the time I believe it was like 8 to 10, I was sexually abused by a neighbor, an older boy, and he would have been like, I want to say like 16 or 18 by then, something like that, I think. Um, and my mom used to make me go over there and play because he didn't have any friends. So, but he was like mentally disabled. So that was a hard, like that actually took me like a long time to admit. Um, for like lots of reasons. I felt like that people would think I was like less of a man or anything, or like, well, how could I let somebody that's like I don't want to use this term, but this is honestly like, I'll go to back how I was thinking then and like think like that anymore or use those words. But like, how could you let somebody do that? That's like slower than you. Like, how could you let somebody do that? So it was, but it happened like quite a bit for a long time. And that kind of just like fucked my head up pretty good. I could swear on here, right?
Fuck yeah.
Okay, sweet. I probably will anyway, and you'll just have to edit it if I don't. But and that like, so between the religion and I was wondering if like I questioned everything, like thinking that made me gay and homosexuality was such a fucking sin in the church that it was like I couldn't talk to anybody. So I just held everything in, and it just got to the point where it was like acting out. I think like started. I was ADHD, so I was on Ritalin, and it was the first thing I tried was snorting Ritalin, and I want to say I was probably like 12, like in grade 8, but it didn't really like do anything because I needed it. So
Yeah.
like, so it's kind of a waste. But then I remember like taking pills out of like my mom's cabinets or anytime I was at my grandparents, like stuff like that, and just anything, and not even knowing anything about prescriptions, but just taking them. And it was like to me when I saw Basketball Diaries and like they all took pills that had no names and they didn't know what it was in that basketball game. That's what it. That's what a lot of my grade 9 was. Like was just doing whatever, just trying to get as fucked up as possible. Lots of acid, mushrooms, and I smoked like lots of black oil was like my favorite thing. I always hated weed, always. I don't know why, but yeah, it was strange. And then yeah, I think it mellowed me out too much. But acid was like my thing. And then so by the time I was like 14, I left home. It was basically my parents had gone the route of Christianity, where like if you're not going to church, you're not living in our house. And I was already like stealing cars, freaking hanging out with people on the street. So I think the first time I got arrested for a stolen car was like I was 14. And my young offender record was like super lengthy.
This in Regina?
Yeah. Went from doing that and literally I just like went to the streets and I was in detox for the first time, court ordered when I was 15. I was at the Regina detox, the old one on Victoria Avenue. And it was pretty rough for a freaking young white 15-year-old kid at that time. But I like learned lots and I met people. And then that's what happened. And it's like, I never wanted to drink because my dad was an alcoholic. So I figured it was okay that I did drugs. But and I didn't see what the big issue was because I was like just doing acid and freaking, smoking oil. Like it's not like I was doing blow and whatever else. Like not yet. That's that was the problem. But it just kept escalating to that. I had my oldest son when I was 17. And like I remember being on curfew and probation pretty much like my whole time from the time I was 14 till I was pretty close to 18. Like I was always in trouble. And then I would get like court order to live with my parents as my address. But like my mom, there was a time when she just had enough. And it was like, I was in love with my oldest boy's mom or whatever you want to call it. Back then I thought I was. But it was like my mom would be waiting and at like 1 minute after 8 o'clock, she's on the phone with the cops. Like just, I think they went the tough love route. Like that would help, but it didn't do anything. It just like made me rebel more. But so that kind of stuff escalated. I did have like 3 years clean for a little bit. And then I just started drinking. I was going back to get my adult grade 12, or my GED, I guess. I just drank one night and then it was like just like a switch went on. And then that was it. I was just full blown alcoholic, like pretty much, you know what I mean? Like not with the shakes or anything, but like I drank all the time. And that was my thing. So, and then from then it was just bars and blow and partying. And for years it was just drug dealing. Like I always had to have a hustle. And that was like, and I still like catch myself doing shit like with trying to like having little endorphin rushes from doing things, whether it's like selling tattoo numbing cream. Do you know what I mean? I gotta like check myself every now and again and be like, no, you don't need to fucking have 200 in stock. You can wait till you sell some and just, like it's just, I don't know. It's just a constant. That's the one thing I struggle with probably most is just like stuff like that. That
Side hustles.
Yeah, like that whole feeling of, but like legitimate ones, but still, it's just, I don't know what it is, but
It's that same dopamine hit or something.
Yeah, I think so. Just like chasing that high, but not really a high. Like, and then over the years, my drinking was like the catalyst for so many things because that's when I would start to do drugs again, and I would switch back and forth and go really hard on blow for a while. And then the turning point was when I tried painkillers for the first time, and it was Oxycontin, and I was fucking gone. That was my favorite, my happy place. And like I still remember like the first time I did it, and it's not like it was like glorified so amazing. Like I got that tingly thing, the pins and needles, and I just like, but I just didn't care about anything. So that was it. I just chased that. And like there's times I'd switch to morphine, Dilaudid, whatever I could get, but it was just all my money went to that. And like every job I had in kitchens, I would lose like or quit, and I just didn't give a shit. I just kept like the party would people would pass out, people would go home, and I would still be up searching and doing whatever. Like I just didn't have an off switch. And I was still always just really small. So like, but I could drink like a shitload, but I couldn't necessarily handle a shitload, if that makes sense. Right? Like it's not like I could make composure and was still able to freaking teach a university class because I was a shit show. That like led to seizures. And I remember going for like, I don't know I can't remember what it's called, but like they put the wires in your scalp, like big thing, and like they check for seizures. And I was in a hospital, and it's like an EK, not an EKG, an ECG, maybe, or I don't know.
Sure.
Either way. And I remember going there and doing a big fat line of coke before I went in to stand in front of this machine. And like they were asking me, like, like you don't do any drugs. I'm like, no. And they're like, my pupils must have been fucked. Like it's just like that was such a normal thing. Like I had when she's passed away now, but my first wife, when she was going through cancer treatments, I was fucking doing fentanyl in the Alan Blair bathroom, like the one outside. And it's like I just had no, like I was just trying to kill so much shit inside me, like over all the years that and the root of it all was my sexual abuse for sure. Like I figured that out now. Just if I would have fucking just dealt with it or had the resources back then, maybe things would have been different. But then again, I don't regret anything because it's like, man, I've gotten to do so much cool shit just from being a useless addict from years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like I've made something of myself or starting to. And I would hate to think of the person that I would be if I didn't go through all that. But
you'd be a priest.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, no. That's good. I could probably do like street sermons. I've been told that, but I also like would swear and like, yeah, I don't know. I just like everything got so bad. I was selling so much dope when I was with like before Chelsea and I were married. We were just living together and we were very toxic for each other. We were both doing lots of drugs. And I supplied her with drugs, and she liked drinking, but like she would just do drugs with me. But she was always like a good parent, whereas I was like just fucking fueled by dope. Like just that was just constantly like my thing. So and like it felt like no matter how much money I made dealing, I just fucking snorted it all up or smoked it, did whatever, like or gambled it. Gambling was a big thing for a while because I was selling and sitting at a BLT machine waiting for clients to show up. Like it's just like shit like that. But when it really took a drastic turn for me was the first time I did meth, like that I knowingly did meth and just solely meth, not any like meth in my blow, but like did it. And it was just like, fuck, like I like this. And then it allowed me to stay awake, like sell more and do more shit. It also allowed me to collect like a fuckload of shiny things that I didn't need. Like I used to always joke, and I joke now too, like I'll just put that in my box of shiny things. But like, and anybody that's done math knows exactly what I'm talking about and usually laughs. But I'm sure I still have an old pair of glasses that I tried to fix in the garage with like fucking super glued with like a whole bunch of different size screwdrivers and shit and little bolts that I figured I could rig up. I don't know what I was doing, but who knows? It's a keepsake anyway for their grandkids to find years from now. But and it all just kind of went downhill. Like I was on the run from the cops like all the time and bouncing around between places. And I would usually have like 3 or 4 places that I could stay at. The cops ended up putting like no contact order with me and Chelsea, and nothing physical had happened with us. But it was just, there was a guy in the house and I tried to kick down and he was hiding upstairs and she was drinking, and who knows what happened. Like, it doesn't matter now. We're both all fucked up. So But and I heard him scuffling around upstairs. So I ran up there and I was pretty fucked up. And I tried kicking down the door to my kid's room because that's where he was. And like he had blocked it with the bunk beds, like pushed him in front. And I've still never seen this guy since, but he called the cops, told them I had a gun, and like literally they came and kicked down my door, me in there. So I was back downstairs holding on to Beckett, who was just like maybe like 3 or 4 months old. And he's 9 now. And like I remember a cop, I've told this story before where the first time I was on Hard Knocks Talk, and it was like I remember a young cop coming in just like they kicked down the door and he was so pumped up and fired up with his gun drawn and he's like, drop the baby. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, thankfully I didn't, but like, although it would explain a lot because Beckett's a wild card now. So, but I didn't drop him, thankfully. And it was like, I remember
He's not loaded. Don't worry.
like, it was just, and like, I get it. It's adrenaline. It took me a couple years to like dismantle that whole situation and figure it out. And like, and they're like high-fiving each other when they had me in cuffs because it's like,
Cool.
it was like around and like, but I was like just super fast is what I used to think in my head. It's so good at selling that they never catch me. When I was a fucking idiot, like I would drop my stash like at least twice a week. Like I'd lose a couple grand, just even in someone's car, or some people would give it back and some people wouldn't. And like it was just so, but I ended up going on the run again afterwards because of course you naturally you just the next step is to skip court. Like what else are you gonna do? So I skipped court, had more warrants, and I got caught a couple times visiting Beckett and Chelsea at the house. And then the last time they were like, man, if you come back again, like you're just gonna go to jail. Like we will. Like you got 3 breaches now. So told me to go to my next court date, but I don't know if I did. I obviously didn't because I had another warrant when I turned myself in later. So what ended up happening was that I had gotten endocarditis from shooting needles, or shooting up, I guess. But
You're injecting needles?
yeah,
Through a needle?
I guess so. Yeah, it's been 8 years, so bear with me while I remember.
So that's when your veins collapse, right?
Yeah, like yeah, it's when they go right through when you really got good stuff. But so I remember Chelsea holding a meth pipe for me, like in the upstairs bedroom. And I think Becca was at my mom's. It might have been downstairs, though. Like it's quite possible. But and I had to hold it for me, and I tried to light it, and I was like, the pipe would have been here, and my hand was like way out here. I had no depth perception or nothing. Like, and I couldn't figure it out, and I like couldn't walk to the bathroom. I couldn't walk, but like my dealer came over, and he's a friend of mine. And we still talk sometimes, but he walked in, and his dad had just passed away like 6 months before. It was either from kidney failure, I believe. But when he walked in, he took one look at me and he's like, man, your eyes are yellow. And he's like, that's what my dad looked like. So he's like, they're going to the hospital. So I had to like scoot downstairs on my ass, down the stairs in the low income house that we lived in. And I got to the hospital and he was too fucked up to take me in. So he just dropped me off the door at the emergency doors at the general. And I walked in and I stood at the like triage desk for like not even 10 seconds. And the one lady looked at me and she's like, what's wrong? Like, what are you here for? And I was like, I don't feel very good. And like instantly there's like a wheelchair. Well, I felt instantly a wheelchair behind me. And within like 10 minutes, I'm in one of those big glass rooms that they have. And I was basically like an isolation room. And there's just all these people in there. And I wouldn't admit to doing drugs, but I had track marks everywhere, like abs, everything. And I just wouldn't admit it. Like I didn't see myself as fucked up as everybody else did. So I'm glad that I don't have like too many pictures of me back then. Like I would like to see them, but at the same time, no. Like I have friends that tell me I look like fucking Mr. Burns when I had my shirt off. It's like just like I've seen pictures of me when I first day of rehab, and I look older then than I do now. And I'm old as fuck, man. So but it just like sucked the life out of me. And I wouldn't admit that I was doing drugs and I wouldn't do nothing. They kept running tests and giving me full antibiotics. And even though they knew I had endocarditis, I still wouldn't admit it. And when I got transferred up to a different room, I had people coming to visit me and bringing me dope. And I remember smoking heroin and fentanyl in the hospital, like in the bathroom. And I had like a shoebox with a pair of stolen shoes because I was selling out of there and I traded pills and did whatever. for these shoes, and I had a bunch of syringes tucked into these shoes. Like, and these shoes didn't fit because like my fucking feet were fat from water weight. So, but my sister and everybody knew that I was doing drugs, but nobody could catch me doing it. So I wasn't getting better. And all in all, I was in there for 3 months. So, and yeah, so for the first 2 months, I wasn't getting better and I was lying about everything. And finally, like my brother-in-law, who's oddly enough, he's a priest. He's a priest out in California now. He's married to my little sister. And he took me, pushed me downstairs in a wheelchair for a smoke, which I should have caught on because they were like against smoking. So, but he like took me downstairs for a smoke, and my sister called security and they searched my room. And they found everything, like a couple bottles of pills, like hydromorphs, and whatever else I was selling. And security, when I got back up to my room, security was sitting there and they're just like, it was like, fuck, like still trying to like not play dumb, but I was just like, well, maybe they didn't find everything. So I'll just whatever. But, and they said, they're like, we can either call the cops. Like you have two options. We can call the cops, or your family has said that if you sign over your medical decision-making rights to your brother-in-law, like you'll be allowed to see your kids and everything. We'll move you to a room in another unit and we'll put you on as like a John Doe so nobody can visit you and you can start getting better because you're going to die. And it was like, and I knew I was going to die, but I wanted to fucking die. So I just didn't give a shit. Like I loved my kids, telling them I love them. And I was like preparing myself for dying by like, my dad still has them. And I drew like a stack of fucking like big cartoon characters. Like I would watch Netflix on a little laptop that my friend Danny had brought me. And I would pause shows and fucking just draw these characters so that my dad could photocopy them and they'd be able to color them. But I assumed it would happen after I died. So, but I just didn't give a shit. And so I agreed to it. And I agreed to go to rehab, which was a 1 year long program called Teen Challenge, which is like a Christian rehab. It was in Allen, Saskatchewan, which is like a little tiny farm in a little tiny town, like village. And it was like far away. It was like a hour-long walk to go get smokes, but you weren't allowed to smoke there. So, but I didn't know these things at first. So I agreed to go thinking that I wouldn't make it. So who gives a shit? And I was like, yeah, fuck, yeah, whatever, Jesus, yeah, sure, I'll go. Like, yeah, I don't really care. And then I wanted to see my kids and I just wanted to like not go to jail. Like at this point, like but I knew I had warrants and stuff. So I was just trying to avoid them for a little longer. So I finally got better and I managed to get better in like 2.5 weeks. Like they had me, everything kind of stabilized enough for heart surgery and I had open heart surgery.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You were that sick? You needed heart surgery?
Yeah, I was definitely that sick. So,
Shit.
so I got a valve replacement and it's been like 8 years now. But like I know a friend of mine has some pictures, but I had like big tubes. My whole chest and like everything is covered with big scars. Like under my pecs, there's 2 big ones down in my ribs because they had to put tubes with big spikes in them to drain. Hooked up to all these bags. And at one point I went from like, so I was under 100 pounds when I went to the hospital. And at one point I shot up to 160 in a matter of like a couple days with water weight. So like one funny story, which is like, I don't know if it's appropriate for this, but like it's a good one about my dad anyway. But my everything swelled up so bad. So like my thighs were about like one thigh was like about 4 of my regular little thighs. It was like see-through skin. So it was like, you know, like when you see pictures of babies and they're like the purplish orangish glow thing, like, it's like it looked like that where I could see like little bits of veins. But like that happened to my nutsack as well and my genitalia. And I remember crying, like, and my parents had let my Chelsea come visit me. And she was like, she would fold up and roll up these face cloths and like tuck them under my sack so that it would help drain the fluid. And she was like washing me like sponge baths in bed. And I couldn't like move or do anything. So, and I had a catheter in, but I remember my dad, I was just bawling. My dad came in and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, look at this. And it was like, it's fucked. And he's like, I don't know what you're mad about. That's probably the biggest it's ever been. And like, that was like a little bit of a turning point for me where I was like, man, it's kind of like the bright side, I guess. But it was terrifying. Like my body was fucked, but still not fucked enough that I was considering quitting. Do you know what I mean? Like I would stop doing drugs at the time then, but I didn't have it in my head that I was fully going to quit. Like I still wasn't ready. So,
right.
When I got better from heart surgery, I went back to my parents' house. So after 3 months in there, It might have been a little over 3 months, but I went back to my parents' house and waited to get into treatment. So in order to get into treatment, I had to turn myself in because they wouldn't have a fugitive, they said. So I couldn't have any warrants. My brother-in-law called and the cops were like, yeah, we'll release him. He just had heart surgery. Like, we're not going to keep him. And I just kept saying, like, fuck that. They're going to keep me. Like, go down there, but like, I'm telling you, I'm not coming back out. And he kept saying, oh, no, they promised me they'll let you. So sure enough, they didn't. And I was on a freaking bus to correctional center.
Yeah, like federal?
No, just the correctional center. So
Okay.
Regina. But I was still only like 100 pounds. But I just had like staples, like 40 something staples taken out of my sternum. So I was moving really slow.
Today's episode of Bunny Hugs and Mental Health is brought to you by Co-op. I've been a member of my local co-op, Sherwood Co-op, for, about 25 years, I think. My co-op is one of more than 150 local independent cooperative associations in more than 600 communities across Western Canada. Co-op is a different kind of business. It's not just a gas bar or a grocery store, although co-op is those things too. At its core, co-op is a group of people working together to help their neighbors and build their community. Co-op members are owners, and success is shared with everyone. Your co-op doesn't benefit one person or one corporation. Your co-op was built for everyone. Your co-op was built for your community. Learn more about co-op and find a location near you at coop.crs. Some places just aren't worth the trip, but Indian Head Chrysler definitely is. Indian Head Chrysler can order directly from the factory, saving you thousands of dollars. And if you buy a new or used retail vehicle from Indian Head Chrysler, you'll be entered to win $30,000 at the end of this year. They'll even deliver your purchased vehicle directly to your house, business, or wherever you are. So you should make the trip to Indian Head Chrysler. Visit ihchrysler.ca. Small town service, big city selection.
So in there, it was like I had my court date, appeared in front of the judge, and the Crown asked for 5 years for all my charges and everything else. And like said, like, it's obvious that he's just repeating the same cycle. So we don't want him out, like, at all. The judge took pity on me and was like, well, you've already lined up treatment. My brother-in-law spoke for me at court. And thankfully he did, because the judge was like, you've already lined up treatment. You've done all this. I'm going to take a chance on you. But if you come back and I see you again, I will give you the full 5 years plus whatever else you're charged with. She's like, I don't care. And I said, okay. So, but that still didn't stop me from getting high, because at my parents' house, my mom was dishing out my hydromorphs. And like, I remember taking one to the bathroom and like crushing it up. And it was just like, fuck, I don't even want to do this. Like, it was just, I was done. Like, and I just didn't understand. Like, life was just so shitty. I wasn't allowed to have contact with Chelsea, but we would still talk on the phone. But it was like at any phone calls were like risking getting arrested. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just constant noia and fucking mayhem. And I just gave up and was like, hey, I'm ready to go. Like, I just, whatever. So my treatment got a little fast tracked and I drove out there with my parents. Once I walked through those doors, that was it. Like, I think I probably quit, or the last time I had any painkillers or anything was probably like 2 weeks before that. But I just used my clean days, or whatever you want to call it, as my first day there, because that's the only day I remember. So just easier that. So in treatment, life was not pretty. I had shitty probation officers. My Chelsea was going through more chemo treatments and she was not doing well. Treatment center like showed grace and let me go back home. I was like doing really well. I just sat and read books, read the Bible, and did whatever. But I also like played the game a bit, you know what I mean? Like, but I didn't want to use. And the director let me go back. I got to spend some time with her. And when I got out at my graduation is when I admitted to getting sexually abused. And my mom was talking to me after, and she's like,
You were there for a year and you didn't admit it until the
didn't
very end.
didn't even tell my counselor. But it was like just something that I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do one thing and just get it out, and then whatever. So I said it in front of like a bunch of strangers and some family they couldn't see in this church. And it was like, it felt so good just to get it off my chest. But like, and I just assumed I'd forgiven myself and whatever, but like, I hadn't. And it was still like, I had such a problem with getting close to people, like genuinely close, that it was something I struggled with afterwards. And when I got home, everybody had told me I couldn't keep tattooing because there's too much cash. And like, keep in mind, this time I was permanently inking people's skin. Some were good, but I usually like would disappear before I get too fucked up and tattoo like really messed up, but and take breaks. But I knew that I wanted to tattoo, so I didn't want to listen to anybody. So I agreed to go to school, like university for social work, because that's what everybody wants to do, like save the world and do whatever. Like, it's just a normal thing to do. And I also had like a bunch of kids, and my girlfriend was dying, so I needed to like take care of these kids. And I just didn't want to hustle tattooing anymore. Like at this point, I still like after all those years, I wasn't putting out anything like remarkable. I'm still not, but like I wasn't putting out anything that people really, you know what I mean? Like I'd have the stragglers and I was always like a last minute option. So it was just a hustle and I didn't want it. So I went to school, and during like my first year, Chelsea, we got married while she was in palliative and then she passed away. So I took 2 weeks off because the university made me. And then I was right back at it right in finals. And I still like finished pretty decent. I got really good marks all through university. Near the end, I just kind of not stopped caring, but I realized that like the path I was taking was not, nobody gave a fuck about my good marks. So it was just like, get it done. And I wanted the experience. I knew what I wanted to do. And I made up my mind in like the last year of like where I wanted to pursue like my social work career. I wanted to do half and half, tattooing and social work. Somehow combine them so that I could just like be happy all the time. Like what was not really work. You know what I mean? Like I can help people. Plus like the color on it. And both will whatever. The coloring on people pays more than social work. So uh,
But it's that balance. It's that balance of creativity and art and helping people and not getting too overwhelmed by either one.
Yeah, and it's healing. It's like I was doing like a ton of memorial tattoos. I still do, just from like through palliative and through from telling my story. Lots of people will message me about it. But like it went from like being like having an opening, and I look back on old Facebook memories and it's like, oh, I have an opening tomorrow. And like I'd never make it sound like I would always say it was a cancellation, but like nobody fucking booked with me. So it wasn't a cancellation. It wasn't very good. But and now it's like I just don't even like, I mean, like I just have this crazy wait list. Like I just finished like a 2-year wait list last in December, and it was like mental. And I kept saying that I was going to slow down once school ended, and now I am slowing down. I'm like, right now I'm tattooing 2 days a week. I still have yet to make a post explaining to all my clients and people why, but or I'll be coming out with some like sort of big news on this new thing I've been working on social work wise. And then and people will understand, like I'm gonna probably cut down to 1 day a week or whatever and just keep it fun. And then I can pick and choose more. But like I've been super happy doing it this way with less tattooing and just kind of evening it out. But I just gotta find a balance so that I'm not like 7 days a week, right? So I was doing like working in school for 7 days a week for like 6 years. So and it was like never ending and so tiring. Like I know it's my ADHD, I'm unmedicated and I just go, but like fuck. It's like now I'm getting kind of old, man. And I'm just like I'm turning 43 right away and I'm just like feeling it. Like I'm out on the street like every day, like walking. And it's like now I'm just like, oh man, I need like some extra cushion in my soles for my running shoes. Like I'm starting to like realize that orthopedic shoes might not be so bad if I can find some all right ones. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm getting old.
I do. I wear Crocs at work because they're good for my feet. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how Crocs would fly with what I do, but
yeah,
picked off and laughed. But like now life is like, I'm like, I just passed 8 years, I think. And life's like, I'm married again. I just got married on May long weekend.
congrats.
Yeah. Thank you. And my like, for like when I did that EMDR therapy, like that was my biggest thing was like emotionally, I was unavailable to Kylie. Like I loved her, but like my way of showing love is to like do nice things for people or buy them
Love
something.
language.
Yeah, like buy them something. But it was also my cop out for not like being a big snuggler, which is weird because Beckett's like Kylie used to always get mad. She still makes comments sometimes, not mad, but it's like you snuggle like the freaking kids like nobody's business. She's like, and then I want some, and you're just like, ah. Like I don't know, but like I've gotten better now. once I dealt with that trauma of being sexually abused, I realized that that was like my main thing that was fucking just like holding me back. And it was like a feeling of worthlessness and constantly like between the religious stuff, like feeling like I'm not a man or I should have done something. But like I was fucking 8 years old. Like, what are you
Mhm.
supposed to do? So,
Yeah.
so many diagnoses and trauma go alongside each other and they like feed off each other. And it's like, it takes like good counselors and therapists and just good people that like I feel that have like the best ones are the ones that have kind of been through it and have some experience with it that can like pick apart the stuff that's like fucking you up because that's what and it's like usually like I even find it with like my counseling sessions I do with people is like what like on what earth would I be considered like a good counselor? But to be honest, man, it's like I can just like and I don't think I am a good counselor, but I can relate to people and they know that and it's not like a judgmental thing. So they're like at ease. They're telling me lots of times I get told shit I do not want to do. Like and weird shit when I'm like, I don't think that really has anything to do with what we're talking about, but okay. But um, but like just being able to,
Appreciate the life experience and
yeah,
the
exactly, yeah, being able to like have people be relaxed and like trust you, especially people on the street is like a huge thing because that's like the place where you don't trust anybody. So or very few people. So like and my whole thing is based off of just like my whole street counseling is based off of just like man, it's like just walking up to people. It's just like I want to be on the streets and I just want to do whatever. And I'm at a point in my tattoo career where it's like I can do that. And that's what it's all about. Like if I can create art and have it like be my happy place and my therapy for me and put like help put on art classes for kids and do lots of shit that I wasn't able to do before because of the shit I was doing. If I could turn that around and like do that and show kids and do whatever and just like be that person for myself, even and for my kids, it's like way more fulfilling than just like pocketing cash every day. It's fun doing what I'm doing now. And it's like now it's starting to like not recognition for stuff, but like people in higher positions recognize me from being out and seeing me. And it's like people start asking you questions and asking advice and doing stuff like that. And like that's where I want to be. But I want to be on the street with that firsthand knowledge, but to be able to get a seat at those tables to like make change. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's something you could well, I don't know if you could, but maybe the government could be doing more of that as actually like hiring people like you to do what you're doing anyway, to go
Well,
out to do counseling on the street.
yeah, like it's a whole like model for like so that the nonprofit that I'm doing it with is like a nonprofit I've been volunteering with for a couple of years, and it's called the Comeback Society, and like it
Oh,
focuses on amplifying Indigenous voices and bringing culture back to Indigenous youth. Mhm. And I've been like the director of community relations for I don't know, like a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years. I don't even know, but the only reason I took the position is my friend Alicia, who runs it, told me I was like, man, I don't want a job. Like I didn't want a job when I got out of university. I was like, I'm taking 6 months to tattoo and I just don't want a job. I want to like do my own thing. And I always had this vision to like open my own social work corporation. I just didn't know how. Like I can't run a business. So and then she said, well, that's great because I can't pay you. And I was like, sold. Like I'll start fucking today. So it was like, and I have, and it's like, it's mostly just like to use like utilizing people I know like from everything to just like further kind of like try to further advance the cause and just like bring it to new people and like and I feel like I don't do much but like they've been so supportive in like my goals and my journey that she was finally just like okay man like you've been volunteering doing this street counts and shit and like I was starting to take time off from tattooing a little bit and like out there on the street and it was turning into like every day and it was like getting tiring but it's like doing it all on my own. And she was just like, let's like apply for grants as a nonprofit and then you can do your thing and then you have to worry about paperwork. Shit, yeah. So that's my biggest thing is paperwork. I don't like paperwork. So but
I
yeah,
hear you there, brother.
yeah. And it's
It's
just kind
ADHD in us.
of I just hate it. And it's like, my paperwork involves like a ton of papers in a drawer. Like that's it. And I pull them out every night and sort through them. We've been working together and it's like um just helping each other out, but it's like um it's all about like wraparound services and like constant support. So like mentoring almost and like, you build a relationship with somebody for a year on the street and like you're there through all their shit and you're not expecting anything from them. Like I don't. That was the biggest thing for me was to like rewire my brain from the old way of like NA and AA, thinking that you had to be abstinent in order to be successful. And it's just not that way. Like, so for me personally, I think that abstinence is probably the best way for me. Like, well, I know it is. That's why I like, and I stick with that. But that's because I'm a shit show when I use drugs. So there's no like, then from I don't even want to test the waters. Like now I've got like 8 years, it would just be like I'd be super upset if I went and used and whatever. I would take it personally hard. So just don't bother. And like, but I do know that some people are like success is different for so many people. Like sometimes it's just paying your rent. Sometimes it's like keeping up with supervised visits with your kids and not going stoned. Like, and it's like just little things, but it's just being there for people where they're at, non-judging, and just being there and like being consistent, not just being like one of those white saviors that swoops in and then is gone. It's been amazing. Like I've learned so fucking much, done so much, but like there's still lots I want to accomplish because I feel like I haven't accomplished shit yet with this. But like I feel like it's a like street counseling and taking doctors to people where they're at, like people on the street. I have so many people that are undiagnosed and unmedicated that I work with that like their lives could be so much better if they actually could make it to that appointment and have a doctor not like think that they were pill searching and actually prescribe and get them on a treatment plan, do shit like that, and just like a little bit of stability, even if they can't be stable for themselves, just to have stable people come and administer the meds, like do whatever it takes to at least get them, to at least give them a chance, like to start off with. Do you know what I mean? And then like that change happens, and like it might not be for everybody. It obviously isn't, but I read this book called Rough Sleepers, which like really solidified my dream of doing this street counseling thing. And it was like I'd always envisioned it as like trap houses, and I'd be going and sitting in a couch with like a shitload of gang members and freaking counseling, like, or just shooting the shit and being there. Do you know what I mean? And like, granted, I've been in some super sketchy places and I do it on my own. I don't like taking anybody else with me. For that reason, just that it's like not always the safest. But I also like am very aware, like now, I've kind of now doing it for like the last year. I've been like mellowing myself out on like, okay, well, I could probably just sit on the front steps. Do you know what I mean? I don't really need to go right in, because like I used to live in trap houses and I know what goes on in there, and you never know who's going to come kick in the door. So it's like a, you know, like I got to get away from the adrenaline rush and the Russian roulette of fucking exhilaration, I guess. So
right, yeah.
So it's been like it's been a learning curve. But the Rough Sleepers book, like, just I just read it like not even that long ago. I finished it, and it was like I couldn't put it down, and it like just solidified the fact that like, hey, I'm gonna make this happen, and I'm gonna go full in. And it's like, even though I'm not getting paid for it right now, I'm gonna slow down on tattooing, and just I was teasing my clients, being like, they're like, well, how are you gonna afford it? I was like, I'm just gonna charge you guys more. So and work. So, like, I didn't, because I'm the worst, but at charging people. But and it just like I just knew it. I just like knew it was what I was supposed to do, and it's been like good thing after good thing. Like people have died, and like people I know, and like I've seen tons of shit that sucks, but I just know that that's where I'm supposed to be. And it's weird. I always told people I would never quit tattooing, and I never will, but I will like slow down to do this. I just feel like this is where I'm supposed to be right now, and there's got to be a balance in there somewhere. So
it's amazing that you're doing that. Like you are like, you have my full respect, and I mean I can do that. I yeah, man, it's pretty cool what you're doing. Pardon me?
you probably could. I think like everybody has it in them to do. Like honestly, like I had a CBO contact me, like an organization, to be like, do you mind training like our staff on like how you do what you do? And I was like, I can't, like, and like flat out just said right there in person, was like, I can't charge you money to fucking train you. I was like, I'll just tell you right now how I do it. And it was like they were listening intently for like this big secret. And I was like, you just treat them like they're fucking humans. Like you're just go out there and you're just kind. They're just people. And it's like, they might be scary, but they're just as scared of you. Like, to be honest, like when you see gang members and shit, like, and lots of other people or young kids trying to act tough in the street, there's a reason they're doing that. And it's like, so it's not like I'm in Dr. Filling them and like doing insight on them or anything like that. It's just just whatever. It's even just like a hello and like look them in the eyes and it's like, but not staring. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like a regular thing. And like they start to, sometimes it takes quite a bit, but they start to see that you're not a threat and you're just there to help. And then that's when things like open up. I've had some people really open up about some crazy shit and like want to get better. So, and
It's like they can sniff out bullshit too, though, right? And then they can sniff out intent. What's the intention of this guy coming here? And it's like, is it to make them feel better? And it's like, so then they can go to their dinner party on the weekend. Like, I spoke to a native gang member and I made them better. And he's my secret project. I want to cure him. Yeah. That's just like, oh, okay, this dude's just a good shit who has an open heart.
My big thing is literally an open heart at one time.
I thought of that after I said it.
I just thought that was for the tent thing.
Yeah.
I figured I'd my moment of glory.
Dad jokes.
They do, like, I get asked if I have any met, probably more than like I thought for sure people would think I was an undercover cop sometimes. And like there's the odd joke and they'll make comments. And then like somebody that I'm there with will be like, man, I used to buy dope off of him. Like he's not a cop for sure. And it's like, I'm like, man, like I've never passed a fucking physical. There's no way. Like do that shit. Like wearing a sweater is like heavy for me sometimes. So I'm old. But they do like snip it out and they do like know, but you still do get like they still put like people still push your buttons because that's the way it is out there. Like and I'm not like, and it's not like every single person's gonna like me. That was a hard thing for me to like swallow. It's like I like to be liked. It's just like a thing that I actually care less about it now. And it's like I don't care if people necessarily like me, but I do care if they know that I'm there to help. And if they know that like they can still reach out. And it does happen where people that have been like a complete asshole to me will come up and ask and be like, hey man, I like really want to go to talk. It's like, hey, let's fucking get you there, even on the systems and shit show and whatever. Let's get you there, but pick you up in the morning and get you there at 8 o'clock, 6. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So basically I just rip around like now that the encampment's down, I won't be spending as much time there. And I'll be back to like driving down alleys and stuff like I was before, and getting all the areas and because there's people in the south end, east end, everywhere, like north end, it's all over the place.
It is that time for that Some Bunny special. Bunny, get it? A segment where we chat about who cooperated in our mental health journey and helped fill our emotional tank, brought to you by Co-op. So there's a lot of puns in there for the Co-op.
Yeah, I like that.
So when in your darkest times, is there someone that sticks out in your mind that was like a rock?
Like, oh shit, that's a good question. So like, to be honest, for me, it was, and like, I was very quiet about it for a long time, but like my rock would have been like God, honestly. Like that's, it was just, even though you can't like see him or her or whatever you want, but like, for me, it was just like that constant talking to myself, but out loud, and just like asking for guidance. But like that allowed me to like acknowledge that I was like, I was fucked and I didn't know what I was doing. And this is like after after the drugs, but it would have been God. And it was like not in a church. I actually feel really out of place in church and I don't really like it anymore. So I don't go, but I do have a good relationship with like a spiritual relationship anyway, and a healthy one. And it's actually stronger since I stopped going to church. So
Vigilante ministry.
Yeah, basically. Like I'm not into like yelling on street corners about going to hell and shit like that. Because holy shit, some of the things that pass through my head in a day, my God, like what would be, like I really hope that it's not like the Catholics teaching. There's gonna be like a big TV screen and everybody gets to watch my sins because holy shit, like I know what I've done. So, but and then when I was using, I don't know what it would have been like. My parents were always there, even when they weren't. But like I could always lean on them to a point until I couldn't, and then it was like taking matters into my own hands. But now my rock is like it would be God, and like my wife is my biggest supporter. So she does way too many nice things, and she's too good to me for what I do for her. But I would say so.
You're pretty hard on yourself, I noticed.
No, not really. I'm just honest. I'm a very slack and like cuddly. Like she makes this noise Like, oh, every time I say something sweet and it drives me insane. And it's like, so I, and we've come to an agreement actually in the last few weeks. And she's like, I'm going to make the noise and you could just deal with it. And I was like, fine. Like, so,
But you also kind of bashed your own artwork, and you kind of
yeah.
bashed is like I've done nothing on the street, like you're doing this amazing work, and you're like, I don't feel I've accomplished anything. It's like, what the fuck are you
Well,
talking about?
there's so much more to do. Like, I know I've accomplished lots because it's like, I know like even just like with shit, I had, like degrees hanging on my wall, but like those ones, like nobody cares about that on the street. That's like actually worse. Like if they find
Yeah,
a
right.
worker, yeah, like I don't even tell anybody usually. So,
You need
um,
a degree of hard knocks.
yeah, so yeah, literally, like basically, I write the letters after my last name because when you go to advocate for people and they find out you have a degree in something, they do tend to be so dickish. Like, and it helps people more than it helps me. So if that's what all my student loan debt went for, then that's perfect. It's good enough for me, but like, and I stay a registered social worker. I was never going to, but I do it so that I can counsel people a lot easier, like without any recourse and stuff like that. So I have access
Mhm.
to services and help for them. So
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But I'm not that exciting anymore. I used to think I was, but I'm sure people think I have this exciting life, but to me, it's just like not boring because I know it isn't, but like I love chaos, like the chaos of like crisis and shit out on the street. But I do appreciate the days where it's like everybody's happy to see me and like having a good day. But I also know that if I hang out in that same area for a good hour, that mood's gonna shift. So it always does. So
Mhm.
that's why I like being on my feet and ripping around. So
That's the ADHD. It's like
hmm,
they see
that-
EMTs and people like that. Like that's a good job for ADHD because it's like scheduled chaos.
yeah, for sure. And you know you're up there doing stuff, and it's like, I mean, yeah, like I'm fully tattooed and like I go out in like camo shorts or just shorts and like a t-shirt and I go to meetings like that with like fancy people and I just don't give a shit. I mean, like, it's not like I'm a dick, but like I just talk like I normally do, which involves usually swearing, but like people appreciate genuineness. And it's like the things
Absolutely.
that the things that I see on the street are not a way that academic words can explain. Like it doesn't work like that. So it's just like normal people doing different shit and just like nitty gritty, I guess. Just like right to the basics of just kindness and humanity and just like lots of humor because people on the street love humor and they love laughing and like
Mhm.
yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It warms my heart anyway. It makes life great.
I think okay, so this is a weird thing about me. I don't know why. I used to work downtown Regina, and it was like I don't know, multiple times a week. Like street people would come up to me and just talk to me and like fucking tell me jokes, and we'd like have a cigarette together and stuff. And it's like I think I would be good at what you do, but I just don't ultimately think I could do what you do just for me. Like I think I would be good at it if I were able to do it. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. It's like and it is like what you said earlier, like people, and I've heard that actually in the last couple months, um, where people will say, like, well, you've been there, and they'll flat out ask you, be like, man, were you ever addicted to anything? And be like, yeah. Be like, what? It's like, well, near the end, it was mostly like fentanyl and meth. And then once you just say that, they're like, well, you get it then. And then they'll just talk. Like, so they want somebody that's the days of like the social worker that's like wearing Ugg boots and going into houses and fancy clothes, trying to relate to people that just searched in dumpsters that morning are over. Like, and there's no, like, I know that's not going to be like a fucking popular little thing that I just said, but it's true. Like, the people on the street do not want it. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, though, there's lots of good social workers. Just because they dress nice and do whatever doesn't mean they can't relate or that they haven't been there. But that's just not what people on the street in Regina are looking for right now. And it's like so much damage has been done over the years with social workers and shit like that, just because of the system.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's like I get the joy of like working around the system, but like kind of punching my way through it. So because nobody can fire me at this point. Like right now, I always make that joke. They're like, who's gonna fire me? Like I run my own thing, like my
Your
own.
wife.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Like, I'm the accountant if I don't freaking start doing better books. But But yeah, like it's just people just want genuine people that have been there that they can relate to and that they don't have to feel ashamed in front of. Like, because that's the shame is what keeps everybody using, like shame, guilt, and freaking trauma. And it's just sad. Like
Yeah.
you hear so many crazy stories out there, and it's like and fucking like devastating stories that are just like disgusting the shit that has been done to some people at like young ages and at old ages. And it's just like it's heartbreaking, but there's like I hate the word resilient, but there is like a resilience with so many people on the street. Like those bastards are tough, man. Like they deal with a ton of shit and they're just pushing through every day. It's
Imagine if
crazy.
they had like a decent home and a decent place to live, some healing, and they used
Yeah,
all that energy and that resilience to like further themselves, not just to survive.
for sure. So like that's what I ended up doing was taking all that energy and just putting it into school and everything else and tattooing and it just like blossomed. But I also had supports and
Yeah.
that's important and so many people don't. So it's like with the street team, that's what it's based around. It's like kind of coming together and like not abandoning people. It's not like, okay, you're in detox, you're on your own. It's like going and checking up on them and shit like that. Like, making house calls and doing whatever, like back in the old days of doctors going to houses and like more personal relationships. Like, and that's what I feel like it needs to be. It's missing. We're missing the personal relationships in the healthcare system and in counseling and everything. Like
Hmm.
boundaries have been set up so harsh that like, no, you can't hug a client. Do you know what I mean? You can't do. I fucking hug people all day at work, like on the street. I hug them. I tell them I love them. I get told I like that they love me like so many times a day that it's amazing. Like I love it. And it's just like even a group of strangers be like, love you guys, just while I'm walking away. And you'd be surprised even somebody that just met me will say, love you too, bro. Like it's just like people don't hear that enough. And it's like
Mm.
I remember walking around so much on the street when I was homeless and just thinking that nobody gave a shit. And I had parents that I could call if I wanted
Hmm.
to go back home and go to church. But like I felt like nobody loved me. And
Yeah.
it's a fucking horrible feeling. And
Yeah.
the only thing that took that away was getting super high for a little bit.
Yeah. I worked at Pine Lodge for a couple of years after being a client there, and yeah, it's nice when you're done your shift and you're walking down the hall and everybody love you, Todd. It's like I've known these people for like some of them a week, maybe part time, and they love hearing that someone loves them.
Yeah,
And, and like again, the bullshit meter, they can see that this guy's genuine.
like,
Yeah.
and for some people, it's like that's their most stable relationship that they have, like a supportive support system. If somebody coming around, like for me, coming around, handing them clean meth pipes, taking their dirty one, and listening to their shit for 5 minutes, and then sometimes longer, because I do have people who be like, "Can we go somewhere and talk?" And they'll just whatever they want to talk about. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's like complete mess psychosis, and it's like wild, and it's I hear some interesting stories and I look at some really strange and upset people and they see faces in them and I don't. But it's just like, whatever, I'm here for it, man. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just, yeah, it's just getting back to the relationship of people are human and people are hurting. It's just kindness. That's all I can like, you
Yeah.
know,
It
I
is a
like,
paradox. It's like you do have to be careful. You do have to have limits, and because it
yeah.
does fuel you, but it can turn on you real quick and just
Oh yeah, that shit can ignite real quick. Like that's what fuel does eventually. So
yeah.
like, yeah. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. I just like the idea of like not really like I know I answer to people like the social work union, like do you know what I mean? But like I fly under the radar pretty good because it's not like I'm doing anything. It's not like allowed. It's just a different way of doing it. So
So there's no like code of ethics that you can't.
like I'm following all that shit. Do you know what I mean? But it's like
Yeah.
counseling doesn't need to be in a specific room. It can be wherever. Like I mean, it's just like you don't have to find God in it. You don't have to hang out with God in a church or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like people smile all the time at home, and that doesn't have to be a certain place. Like it's just wherever you are right then, and that's what it's all about. It's just like
Yeah.
meeting people where they're at, and it's I don't know. We need more of it
It's
for sure.
fucking cool, man. I
Yeah.
wish there was about 3,000 more people like you in Regina just walking around doing that.
I hope there is quite a few like kind of starting. I do have like one another counselor. She has her master's of social work, and she comes out with me volunteering, and we walk around and just do it together. And it's like she like fit right in so fast. I didn't even have to. I kept saying like I feel like I'm like we should be doing something. She's like, man, it's fine. Like she did some work in East Hastings before, and like she's a perfect fit for it, and people like will talk to her, and it's like I don't have to babysit her, like, which is what I worry about with some people. Do you know what I mean? Like, or
Yeah.
being worked with, I have to like explain everything to them. There's just some people that just like do it and just like click. And I feel like eventually this time next year, I think this is going to be like a bigger thing that's happening. And like it'll be like anything, you'll get some people that are in it for the wrong reasons, and
Yeah.
they'll get paid way more than I do, and that's easy because I don't get paid anything right now. But um, but those people, like, they sort themselves out pretty quick. Like the people on the street sort them out really quick.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about it. It's just if the selfish part of me and like the ego kind of is like, oh man, I just like want this to be like my thing and whatever. But at the same time, it's like I decided to join with a nonprofit because if I can help more people or like get people more help with the help of other people, then that's what it's all about.
Thank you so much, Rob. You are doing incredible work, and I hope more people like you start popping up all over cities everywhere and give free counseling to people on the streets. Okay, so now this week's question. It's going to be an easy one. What organ did Rob have surgery on? That question again. What organ in Rob's body did he have surgery for? Send your answer to bunnyhugspodcast@gmail.com, and you could win yourself a $25 gift card from Co-op. And hey, if you're following me on Facebook already, that's great. There is a new Facebook group, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health Community. So it's not just me posting. Anyone can post on there. You could talk about your day. You could talk about the episodes. You could talk about guests, whatever you want to talk about. You share mental health articles. You could share anything you feel like sharing. Just come join the community, Bunny Hugs and Mental Health Community on Facebook. And please keep listening. Tell people about the podcast. Let's start a mental health revolution here with this free mental health service. Bunny Hugs a Mental Health Podcast. And for crying out loud, please remember to make your beds and take your med. Bye.